episode now, where we provide what? Hope and joy to others who are facing some of the same challenges. Today is a special day because it is a part 2 episode. This episode is a continuation of when we talked to Souraya Christine last time about some of the trauma and trials and tribulations she's been through. So if you didn't see that episode, please go back and watch it. It was absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to learn more about her organization, L.I.L.A.C. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back. I truly appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Indeed.
I was so inspired by your first episode and all of the things that you have overcome. And I'm just so overjoyed to share with the audience a little bit about L.I.L.A.C, what it stands for, how it got started, what you're doing, and moving things forward. So I would love to have a conversation about it.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, first, let me just say that sometimes I will say God has jokes. He is definitely a comedian. He likes to wake me up in the middle of the night with random things. And so this is no different. And so it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and God woke me up and said, write down the word lilac. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like the flower? Like, what are we doing? So I wrote down the word lilac, and then he's like, look up what it means. So I'm on my phone in the middle of the night, Googling lilac, and it was very weird as it was happening, because it was like he was giving me one step at a time. And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking it up. Lo and behold, I learned that there are multiple colors of the lilac flower. I never knew that before. So, okay. So then he's like, okay, now look up what that means. And so I'm like, okay. So I started to look up what the different colors of the lilac flower meant spiritually. And so I learned that each color of the lilac flower has a different spiritual meaning. And so I was like, what? It was blowing my mind. Now at 3 a.m, here I am, learning about lilac flowers, And so it was like, some represent happiness, some represent joy, some represent purity, just different things, as it relates to spirituality. Some represent spirituality, first love and things like that. And so it was incredible. And I'm writing these things down. And he's like, now, lilac is an acronym, and this is what it stands for. So he laid out what it stood for. And so I'm writing, I'm trying to keep up with him. And it stood for Ladies Influencing Life-Altering Change.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, I was blown away, because I had more recently become ordained as a pastor. I had been a licensed minister for a few years. And so I was just, kind of, what do you want me to do? Like, well, and so it was like, this is how you're going to teach women to overcome. So each of the lessons that I started to develop from there, so I started partnering with churches and, doing groups with the women. And so I would take whatever lilac flower we were focusing on in that time and develop a lesson from the Bible based on that color and that spiritual meaning. And so, and that's how it started to progress. So I kept doing that and partnering with churches and doing that, and then started to do it even on my own in the community as well. And so, yeah.
Wow. I mean, what an incredible acronym, right?
Yeah.
But what's even more interesting is the fact you listened and you did.
Yeah.
You didn't just hear, you listened and you did.
Yeah.
Right? And he's telling you what this stands for, and it's like, oh my gosh, now it's a purpose.
Yeah.
Right? And you have this purpose. So now that you have been doing this in the community and you've been partnering with churches, is this what you started as a nonprofit, or is it something else? What did you do as the nonprofit arm of what you wanted to do?
So ultimately, I took the ministry, and I kept getting discouraged because people would always say, oh, it's so hard to apply for a nonprofit. Oh, it's going to take this long. Oh, you need this much money and all this stuff. And so I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to try to do that. But ultimately, I did it anyway. And I did it on my own, by myself, with no assistance. And I got approved, and it got done in probably 6 weeks. Returned back to me with the approval. And so I was like, okay, God, I see you. So it became a nonprofit. And I'll be honest, I haven't done a whole lot with it nonprofit wise, but I do do different things like fill purses and give those out to needy and homeless women and different things like that. I also will do, I started doing conferences years ago. especially during the month of October because it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So that was like my start. I would do a conference every October. And so from there, and it was called Victim No More. And so from there, I started doing additional conferences and panels throughout the year. I would do one that I loved so much. It was called How I Became, and it was to help inner city students, kids to understand that they can think outside the box, that there was more world outside of their community, because a lot of times we get stuck in that, especially from the inner city, and you can't see any progress outside of what your four walls are showing you. And so I used to host that panel group and have people who are from the inner city but became successful in whatever their profession was, to come and speak to the kids in the community. So I started doing that as well. So those are some of the things that I've been doing over the years with the nonprofit.
So when you go to what are you giving? Is it a product? Is it something that's made? Is it a lilac that's made? What are you giving when you go to these conferences? Or is it more about speaking about these issues?
So you just gave me some great ideas, and no, I haven't given anything
Okay.
tangible.
Because I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that when you begin to think about nonprofits, and we're going to take a station break, and we can talk a little bit more about this. But when you think about a nonprofit, and you think about what you're doing, the power of the tongue is huge, right? But the power of remembrance of images, of pictures, of seeing is even more powerful.
That's true.
Right? Because it's something that you can look at, you can see, you can revisit, you can relove, you can, it can bring back the things that you need to remember. So we'll take a station break and we'll continue with that conversation.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
When I was in college, I had a college professor to tell me I would never, ever make it in technology. He told me that I needed to change my career, all because I took a test and got a D after studying so very hard. I knew at that point that I had to learn the game of life and survival. How did I do that? I really put on my game face so that they never knew what to expect, when, where, or how. See, life has all of its journeys and obstacles. We all have a story to tell, and we have many different paths that we take. My journey to this moment has not been easy. You have to play the game, play to win, and you win by wearing your game face. Welcome back. So as we were talking, before I get into the nonprofit sector in terms of things like that, what activities did you really do when you had these conferences or when you went to fill purses? What is the fill purse thing? Is it something that goes inside? What do you do with that?
Yeah, so let's talk about the conferences first, because those two things are actually separate, and the conferences have been happening longer than the purses. So with the conferences, for me, it was all about the experience for the people who were attending. So it was all about healing. That was the whole goal. And so there were several times when people have realized that they were even in particular types of situations that they didn't realize they were in. So they started to get that understanding and subsequently the healing from there. But we would do things like I would have them write down their emotions on a balloon, for instance, and then we would either pop the balloon or send it off into space, which I learned was not such a good thing. So I don't do that anymore, but that's what I used to do. And so I would have different people talk about different topics related to trauma or specifically domestic violence. And then we would have entertainment as well. I always feed people at my conference, so there's always food. And then so those are the experiences that they got while they were there. With regard to the purses, it's more so I sought out donations in the community. I purchased a lot of things out of pocket as well, and it would just be little things like things that somebody could use if they're on the streets and they're trying to escape a situation that they need. So it would be feminine products, it would be deodorants, it would be soaps, it would be tissues, it would be sometimes gift cards, like small amounts, gift cards, things like that for food or like a Walmart or something like that. I've even put like little earrings in there, just something to make you feel pretty. Because, women, most of us, we like at least something to make ourselves look, or feel
good.
nice, So something like that, especially if I've partnered with a lot of different people who sell paparazzi jewelry. So they'll donate sometimes a little set or something to that cause as well. So just little things like that. Yeah.
So, what's interesting is you're already doing in this nonprofit, when we think about nonprofits, we think about how do we raise money to continue our cause, right? And we know nonprofits are all about fundraising, but it's for a purpose.
Yes.
And people have to feel the emotion and the tie to that purpose in order to give. But the thing is that, it's one thing to say, I need you to donate $1,000 so that I can provide basic care needs in a purse for a woman. It's also another thing to say, I need you to be a sponsor and I need you to donate $1,000. And for that $1,000, I need you to be able to, I want to be able to provide them with a symbol, something that says, this is your hope. This is something that you can use. This is something you can look at. Whether it is a desk ornament, whether it's, something they put on their dresser, but just a remembrance that these are your lilacs, right? Yeah. Here are the colors. Here are the things. Maybe it's a flower and every leaf of the flower has, what each one of the different colors of lilac means,
I love it.
But I think there's all kinds of things we can do because when we're in the moment, we remember. When we're out of the moment, having something to look at helps us to remember, right? And when we feel weak, I need to touch it. I need to look at that. I need to read it. I need to touch it. I need to look at it. And I need to say, wow, what a beautiful flower. This helped me get through. And then the lessons that come with it, they can go back and do, right?
I love it.
In terms of making that happen. So you're doing the L.I.L.A.C as a nonprofit. What is the other? Is that in conjunction with your counseling that you do? Tell us a little bit more about.
So those things are actually separate.
Okay.
But they have the same name. And that's because I was looking for something that I could do to still continue to help people, but also make a profit because I didn't necessarily want to be tied to a 9-to-5 forever, right? I am tied to a 9-to-5 right now, but I don't want that to be my forever because I like to travel whenever I want to. I like to do the things that I want to do, right? So I was like, okay, God, what can I do to merge these things to still do the work that you want me to do? And so it was the same thing. It was L.I.L.A.C. You can still use that, right? So L.I.L.A.C also became my coaching practice. So I'm a certified life coach. And so I, we help a different way, a little bit than counselors and therapists. I feel like they're more structured and by the book, whereas I'm kind of more like your cheerleader and your accountability partner and, and kind of giving you advice on how to process through things and what that looks like. And so I really, really enjoy doing that. I do one-on-one sessions as well as group coaching. Gonna hopefully start doing retreats soon and get back into doing the conferences and stuff like that. So my whole goal, my whole purpose is to help people to heal. It's always been my purpose ever since I started to find healing on my own. And just to help people understand that no matter what they're going through, however long ago it was or however recent it is, because I still have had my own recent trauma, so it's never ending, and it's just you have to figure out how to be able to handle it when it comes, because it's going to come. I think a lot of times we think that life is going to be good at some point and it's just going to be smooth sailing. But even the Bible tells us that tribulations are going to come, but they come for a purpose. And so that's kind of, what we have to hold on to. But
Well, it's interesting because we talk about seasons, and everybody has a season.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's your season where it's a sunshine. Sometimes it's your season it's a storm. Sometimes it's your season where it's cloudy. I mean, we all have a season, right? And that's part of the process of life is, as we continue to move forward. And I think that, understanding that purpose and then being able to leverage that is important. We're going to take a station break, and when we come back, we'll continue in a few minutes and see if we have a question or a comment from the audience. We'll be right back.
Every story has a hidden element that is not often shared. Hidden Stories, Healed Now, with host Vicki Wright Hamilton, seeks to share the hidden gems in real-life experiences. Our guests are ordinary people sharing their stories of overcoming insurmountable odds while providing hope and inspiration.
When I was in college, I had a college professor to tell me I would never, ever make it in technology. He told me that I needed to change my career, all because I took a test and got a D after studying so very hard. I knew at that point that I had to learn the game of life and survival. How did I do that? I really put on my game face so that they never knew what to expect, when, where, or how. See, life has all of its journeys and obstacles. We all have a story to tell, and we have many different paths that we take. My journey to this moment has not been easy. You have to play the game, play to win, and you win by wearing your game face. Welcome back. So, we were talking about your counseling and everything's been about healing, right? And so your day-to-day job today is your counseling, correct? Is that what you do day to day?
So I do have a regular job as well. I just actually because I moved to a different state recently, so I picked up a job until I am getting on my feet. But I do that as well. So that's kind of part-time right now.
Okay. So you have a regular job, and then you do the counseling, and you have the nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay, I see a busy woman in front of me.
Oh my goodness, you have no idea. There's so much more.
I see a busy woman in front of me. But it's that passion and desire that keeps us going, right?
Yeah.
And keeps us moving forward in terms of what we want to do and where we're trying to grow and develop and then continue to help others, right? Through all of the traumas and all the things that you're addressing and helping individuals to overcome, right? It's so interesting that, when you think about trauma, people you normally think about, death. Well, there's so much more trauma than just death. There are all kinds of traumas. There are all kinds of things that are going on. And it just makes it harder for us as, we continue to move forward to learn how to address each kind of trauma.
Yes.
And you have been an example to the audience of all different kinds of trauma that you have overcome and are still overcoming, right? But still at the same time lending a hand to help someone else.
Yes.
And I think that's just a beautiful story.
Thank you.
In terms of doing that. So I will never look at a lilac flower the same way. I promise you. I will never look at a lilac flower the same way.
Same here.
Let's see if we have a question or a comment from the audience.
So I think everything that you're doing is amazing. And so my question is, so what do you kind of see long-term with Lilac and life coaching and that kind of thing? What is like your big picture and what do you kind of hope for and what do you want to see happen with your nonprofit and everything that you're doing?
Whew, great question. I honestly, I want to change the world. Like that's my, I don't know if you might not be old enough to remember Pinky and the Brain, but I always think about Pinky and the Brain. It's like, what do you want to do today? I want to take over the world. Like that's literally what I want to do. And so when I first started on this journey, I got it in my mind that I didn't want to see anybody hurting. Like all of the pains that I went through, the domestic violence, the molestations, the rape, like all this stuff people go through on a day-to-day basis. I don't want anybody to feel the way that I felt through any of these things or to become as numb as I did through those processes, right? And so really, I just want to touch as many people as I can. So I want to be on as grand a stage as I can to be able to do that because I want to reach as many people as I can. So whether that is TV, whether that is radio, whatever that looks like, I want to do it all because I want to be able to reach as many people as I can. Really quickly, just to kind of solidify that, when I wrote my first book, because my first book is all about trauma and healing, there was a lady who reached out to me from the other side of the country who was in her 20s and she was dealing with breast cancer. And I'll never forget this. She sent me an email and told me how my book touched her and was helping her deal with the breast cancer that she was dealing with. I've personally never had breast cancer. I've never dealt with it. It's nothing about breast cancer in my book. However, because of the trauma and because of the story and because of how, me talking about how to push through that pain, she was able to take that and use that for her own situation. That's what I want. That's the big story. That's the big picture. That's what I want all the time. I want to be able to effectively touch people in that sort of way so that they understand how to heal and how to be able to face, any subsequent trauma that may come. Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
It is, I will say, don't stop, keep going, right? Because, we start as a mustard seed, right? And we continue to move forward.
Yes.
And so all of these grand plans you have and all the things you want to do, that manifestation that it will be, it will be.
Yes,
right?
I believe it.
It will be. And these things that you are embarking upon, even though they may be side jobs now, that are really your passion, that you're trying to get yourself to the point where they can be the full time of what you're doing all the time, the nonprofit that you're starting, getting more funding, more sponsoring, more people engaged so you can continue to make a difference, and let that story be told. But you have such a dynamic testimony.
Thank you.
Just a dynamic testimony. And, for those of you that are listening today, when we talk about hope and we talk about joy, when you hear these stories and you hear the things that people are overcoming and the challenges that they've had and how they've overcome, I want you to take a moment and sit and say, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me too. Right. Because it can. You're not alone. You're not in this battle alone. You're not in this challenge alone. And I'm hoping that through all of this, you can see that you can see that there's so many different things that you can do, not only to continue to help yourself, but to give back to others. And that's exactly what you've done on this episode, for two of them now. I mean, I'm in awe.
Thank you.
I feel very honored and blessed to have had you on the show.
Thank you.
And I am going to have you back when I hear about all these great things you're doing and how it has come to fruition. And I'm not working for anybody anymore. I'm doing all of this by myself, right? And doing the passion that I wanted to do.
Yes.
But keep going. Don't stop.
Absolutely.
God's not through yet. It's only just begun.
Yes.
He's not through yet. You got a lot more to do and a lot more people to impact.
Thank you.
So keep it going. Join me in thanking my guest today. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Hidden Stories Healed Now, where, of course, we tell all those hidden secrets to help everyone heal. See you soon.